Silly girl. That's what my lawyer said after reading the papers my sister forged. I was halfway through my morning coffee in London when he told me the condo my grandmother left me was gone. Sold. Signed. Stolen. My sister had turned my inheritance into her own payday. And the proof was sitting right there in front of me. I didn't scream. I didn't even hang up. I just stared at the window, watching the rain slide down like it already knew what I was about to do next. Because if my sister thought I'd stay quiet overseas, she had no idea what silence can do. I used to think distance protected me from family drama, from their constant comparisons, the quiet looks that said I'd never be enough. Living in London gave me space to breathe, to build something of my own. My sister Mullen stayed behind in Florida. She married well. She became the perfect daughter everyone bragged about at church. Mom adored her for it, and me, I was the dreamer who left. There was one person who never made me feel small. Grandma Evelyn. She was sunlight in a world of cold approval. Every summer she'd brew lavender tea on her balcony overlooking Tampa Bay. The ceiling fan would hum while she told me stories about how she learned to start over after Grandpa died. "Don't let life make you small, Lizzie," she'd whisper, squeezing my hand. "You're meant to take up space." That condo wasn't just property. It was her legacy, a place soaked with her scent, her laughter, her love. When she passed, she left me the deed in handwritten, signed in her soft cursive. It was her way of saying, "I see you," even if no one else did. After the funeral, Mullen handled everything. The flowers, the paperwork, the estate meetings. She looked composed in her cream dress, greeting relatives like a hostess instead of a grieving granddaughter. I thought she was being responsible. Turns out she was rearranging more than roses. Mom used to sigh over the phone. "You should be more like your sister. She has her life together." I'd bite my tongue, sip my coffee, and let the comments slide. I learned early that fighting for fairness in our family was like yelling into a hurricane. So when my lawyer called that morning and said the condo had already been sold, something inside me shifted. The shock was cold, precise, almost surgical. For a moment I imagined Mullen signing the papers with that polished smile she wore when she wanted everyone to believe she knew best. I opened my laptop and scrolled through photos until I found one of Grandma and me on that same balcony. Her hand rested on mine. The sunlight caught the silver watch she always wore. My throat tightened. That condo was more than walls and keys. It was proof that someone once believed I was enough. And now my sister had turned it into cash. The drizzle outside grew heavier, tapping against the window like a warning. I closed my eyes and whispered to no one. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I should have protected what you gave me." Then my phone buzzed. A new email from my lawyer, subject line, "Inconsistencies found." My heart stilled because deep down I already knew who was behind them. Douglas's voice carried across the crackling line. "Elizabeth, there's something off about these documents," he said. "The notary stamps don't match and the signature looks rehearsed." I pushed my chair back, staring at the screen in disbelief. "Rehearsed?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He hesitated, then exhaled. "Silly girl," he muttered softly. Not at me, but at whoever thought they could get away with this. Those two words cut deeper than he meant them to. To him it was an observation. To me it was a challenge. Mullen thought I was too naive, too distant, too trusting to notice. Maybe I had been. Not anymore. I minimized the call and opened the email Douglas had sent months ago. Grandma's will. The signature on the estate transfer looked similar, but not identical. The loops were tighter, the pressure heavier. Mullen always pressed too hard when she wrote. She liked leaving marks. Outside the rain hadn't stopped. Drops slid down the window in crooked lines, blurring the city. I felt the same blur inside. Rage and disbelief folded into something sharper. Grandma had once said, "If someone steals from you, they're not taking what's yours. They're revealing who they are." Now I finally saw who Mullen really was. Douglas cleared his throat. "Listen, Elizabeth. Don't confront her yet. If she altered legal records, we'll need proof. I'll start pulling the property logs and payment files. You just stay quiet for now." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Okay," I said, my voice flat and controlled. "Just find out how deep it goes." After he hung up, silence filled the apartment, and the kind that hums in your bones. I stared at my hands, trembling slightly over the keyboard. It wasn't just about the condo. It was every dinner table where Mullen outshone me. Every time Mom said, "You're too emotional." Maybe I was, but emotion is what made me human. And this time it was going to make me dangerous. I spent the next few hours digging through old emails, grandma's letters, digital scans, even photos of her handwriting. Every stroke, every loop became evidence. When I compared them side by side, there it was, the difference clear as daylight. The forged signature looked almost perfect. Almost. That almost would destroy her. By midnight, I was surrounded by papers and empty mugs. I sent Douglas the images and typed one final line before hitting send. She thought I wouldn't notice. She was wrong. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A notification from a blocked number. A text, "You've been asking questions." I froze. No punctuation, no name. Just that sentence. My breath caught. I typed, "Who is this?" No reply. Just 3 dots appearing, then disappearing. The next morning my phone rang. The screen flashed a name I hadn't seen in months, Mullen. For a full minute I stared at her name glowing on my screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it. The other part, out curiosity, anger, maybe both, made me swipe to answer. "Liz?" She burst through, sugary and loud. "You won't believe how busy I've been. I finally sold Grandma's condo. Closed the deal last week." My fingers tightened around the phone. "You sold it?" "Yep," she said proudly. "Cash offer, $320. The realtor said I handled it like a pro. Anyway, I wanted to thank you for not getting in the way. I'm sending you $10,000 next week. Figured you could use a little help with rent over there." $10,000 for my inheritance. I felt bile rise. "Mullen," I said slowly, "you do realize that condo was mine?" She laughed lightly like I'd made a joke. "Oh, come on. Grandma wanted it for both of us. You're off in Europe living your art dream. I handled everything for the family." "You forged her signature," I said flatly. Her tone shifted on, sharper, colder. "Watch it, Liz, you don't know what you're talking about." I took a slow breath. "Actually, I do. Douglas found inconsistencies. Stamps that don't exist, handwriting that doesn't match." Silence. Then a forced laugh. "You're being dramatic again. Maybe that lawyer of yours wants more money. Don't embarrass yourself." She hung up before I could answer. For a few seconds I stood there, staring at my reflection in the rain-streaked window. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady, terrifyingly steady. I replayed the call, pressed record, and saved the audio. Proof. Her arrogance had handed it to me. By the time I sent the file to Douglas, I was already writing another email. Proceed, collect everything. When my mother called that night, I almost didn't pick up. "Sweetheart," she said warmly. "I just spoke to Mullen. She told me she sold Grandma's place. Such a relief to have that handled." "Handled?" I repeated, my voice trembling. "She sold the condo." "Who inherited it?" "She said it was divided equally," Mom said after a pause. "Why start drama? Your sister's done everything right. Please just let it go." The call ended before I could respond. For a long time I stood in the quiet, surrounded by the hum of my fridge and the low hiss of London rain. They thought I was emotional, unstable. The silly girl who ran off chasing art instead of real life. But real life was about to find them. I opened a new folder on my computer and labeled it Truth. Inside I dropped files, recordings, letters, comparisons. This time I wasn't just keeping evidence. I was building a reckoning. Douglas called 3 days later. His tone was brisk and controlled, the way it gets when something big is about to drop. "Elizabeth," he said, "we filed the fraud report. The court issued a freeze on the proceeds from the sale. Mullen's about to find out." I pressed the phone to my ear. My heart was steady. "Then do it," I said. We didn't wait long. By noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. One call after another. "Mullen." I let them ring out, watching the notifications pile up like proof of guilt. 10 missed calls, then 15, then 20. Finally I answered. "What the hell did you do?" She screamed, panicked. "I don't know," I said evenly. "Why don't you tell me?" "Don't play dumb, Liz. The bank froze my account this morning. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Her voice cracked. "You think you can ruin me? You're delusional. You stole what Grandma left me. You forged her name and pocketed the money," I said coldly. "You never grew up," she hissed. "You live in another country sketching logos and drinking lattes. You don't deserve that condo." Something inside me broke quietly, cleanly. "Maybe I didn't," I said. "But Grandma trusted me. And you didn't just steal money. You stole her memory." She hung up. The silence felt heavier than her voice. Minutes later, my phone buzzed again. "Mom?" "Elizabeth, what's going on?" Mullins in tears. She says you filed a fraud case. It's true, I said softly. She forged Grandma's documents. Don't be ridiculous, Mom snapped. Your sister would never. You used to be kind. I don't know what happened to you. The call ended, leaving me alone with the rain and my reflection. Cold, unfamiliar, unflinching. For years they mistook my silence for weakness. Now silence was my weapon. 2 nights later, an unknown number lit up my phone. I almost ignored it until I saw the name. Ethan Pierce, Mullins' husband. Ethan, I answered cautiously. Liz, he said quietly. His voice was tired, stripped of its usual politeness. I think you deserve to know the truth. He told me he'd checked things after the bank freeze. He confronted Mullin. She broke down and admitted it in the will, the notary, everything. She said she thought I wouldn't notice from overseas. He said he couldn't keep lying for her. I'll testify if it goes to court, he said. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Then, thank you. You don't have to thank me, he replied softly. You were right all along. When the call ended, clarity washed over me. Not joy, not triumph, just clarity. Douglas called the next morning. Ethan's cooperating, he said. We've got enough to press forward. The buyers are testifying too. If we move now, it's airtight. Do it, I said. Hours later, Mullin's lawyer reached out with an offer. Settle for $150,000 if I drop the case and let the sale stand. I laughed bitter and low. Half the value of what she stole? No. If we go to trial, Douglas warned, her side will claim Grandma wasn't of sound mind. It'll be ugly. I don't care, I said. I'm done keeping peace at my own expense. He paused, then said, You sound just like your grandmother. That hurt in the best way possible. That night I opened the last email Grandma had ever sent me. Her words glowed against the dark screen. If I ever leave you something, no, it's not charity. It's a promise that you'll keep living boldly. That's when I knew what to do. The next morning I told Douglas I'd settle, but on my terms. 4 things. First, a notarized apology admitting everything. Second, she repays every cent to the buyers from her own account. Third, she sends a letter to our parents explaining what she did. Fourth, she signs a legal agreement never to contest another inheritance again. He blinked, then smiled slowly. Poetic, brutal, I'll draft it. By sunset he called back. She agreed. She wanted it to end. When the PDF arrived, I opened it with shaking hands. The first page began. Eileen Pierce acknowledges that I falsified legal documents related to the estate of Evelyn Monroe. Her handwriting looked small and defeated. I read it twice, then forwarded it to Douglas with a single line. Justice served. But victory didn't taste sweet. It tasted heavy, like rain-soaked air before a storm breaks. Because justice doesn't erase betrayal. It only proves you were right all along. 2 weeks later, Douglas called again. It's official, he said. The property's back under your name. Funds released. Buyers reimbursed. I walked to the window and watched morning sun spill through the clouds. What will you do now, he asked. Sell it, I said quietly. Grandma didn't leave it for me to hold on. She left it for me to move forward. When the payment cleared, I stared at the balance, $350,000. It wasn't the number that made me cry. It was what it represented: belief. I quit my job 2 weeks later and opened my own studio. Evelyn Creative. 1 desk, 1 client, 1 dream that finally belonged to me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. The condo sold faster than I expected. When the funds hit my account, I sat in the quiet of my apartment, watching the numbers glow on the screen. Grandma had given me the courage to stand up for myself. I finally had it. A month later, a small package arrived from Florida. Mom's handwriting on the box. Inside was Grandma's silver watch and a folded note. She would want you to have this. I turned the watch over, tracing the engraving on the back. The world is waiting. The ticking was faint but steady, like a heartbeat that had traveled across time. Mullin moved back near our parents, sold her new house at a loss, and filed for separation. I didn't hate her anymore. I just hoped she learned what Grandma taught me. That freedom and integrity are worth more than anything you can steal. One morning, sunlight spilled across my studio desk, warming the silver watch on my wrist. I smiled and whispered, I made it, Grandma. Outside, London buzzed with new clients, new beginnings, a life that finally fit. If you've ever had to fight for what's right, tell me. Was it worth it? Hit subscribe and share your story below.